Off the ball. This is News Talk.
And you're very welcome along to Wednesday's Off the Ball. It's Johnny Ward here with you right through to 10 o'clock. And coming up on tonight's show, we'll have Kenny Cunningham and Kevin Kilban talking about the win over Georgia. 2 wins out of 2 for Ireland. Great going so far. We'll also have Stephen Kenny in on the football show to talk about the under-21s, and also Tom Mohan's, I suppose, excellent work that he's doing with his 19s, who've obviously won all their games in qualification. Danny Mills is also going to be on to discuss the progress England are making with Declan Rice in the team, and also the horrible subjects of the racist abuse that some of their players are subjected to in Montenegro. And we also have Rory O'Connor in the studio. That's for the Champions Cup quarterfinals preview. We're also going to talk with Rory about a bit of Ronan O'Gara, a bit of Paul O'Connell, and a bit of Joey Carby. And we'll also talk about the League of Ireland because of 2 big League of Ireland aficionados here beside me. Well, Richie's big anyway. You're more nimble size, Shane Keegan.
I was wondering what adjective you were going to use to describe me there, all right?
How are you?
Not a bother, yourself? All good?
Not bad.
Receiving end of some abuse for the last 12 hours, pretty much.
And correctly so.
I had a few pints at the match last night.
Never tweet after a couple.
No, especially not after a couple more. But I thought Georgia were poor, but at the same time we got the job done. Shane.
So to put this into context, Richie, I only realised at the final whistle that Johnny was sitting 4 or 5 rows behind me at the game last night. So I turned and
didn't ignore you. No, I didn't actually ignore you.
Turned and came up the steps to meet Johnny, whose first sentence out of his mouth was, "I was fairly poor again now, wasn't it?"
You see, like 4 rows can just make all the difference. He saw an entirely different game to you, I'd imagine.
Say, I nearly fell back down the steps. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing.
You're taking a lot of positives from the game.
Absolutely. I thought we were very, very, very encouraging display last night. Real signs of proper game plan. Proper game plan. I mean, take it down to the most simplistic thing. Our setup off their goal kicks was superb. I don't think they managed to play one ball out short in the entire game. You go back to that same game against that same opposition against Martin O'Neill, and they built out from the back and had us camped inside our own 18 every time. We never let them get into any flow. I thought we played some very good football. I think it was a tremendous passing build-up for the disallowed goal for Hendrick.
19 passes, seemingly.
Super football. Look, there's, as we keep saying, there's much tougher games to come, but where you were getting your take on the game, there certainly must have been a few points consumed, was there?
Richie?
I genuinely thought, and I'd be somebody who's watched on from behind my fingers for the last 10 years under Trapattoni and Martin O'Neill, I thought there was a lot of positive stuff to come out of last night. Most people will come away from that game thinking, do you know what, we are on the right track. My one kind of hang-up would be we're still finding it very difficult to create meaningful chances.
2 shots on target.
Yeah, that's a worry. And I don't think it's going to be helped by just playing one up front either. As good a job as David McGoldrick did last night. But the actual inability to break down sides, as good as the build of play is up until that point, will concern Mick McCarthy. At least I'd hope so anyway, going from this point on. But definite shoots from where we'd left off under Martin O'Neill. And obviously, I think we can all discard the Gibraltar game because that was just a freak given the conditions that it was played in, both on plastic and in a wind. But yeah, last night I think was very encouraging, especially the first half.
Yeah, we got a bit of a beano with the result in the Switzerland game as well, which obviously looked entirely unlikely for much of the game. But just the fact that 2 points were accumulated in that game as opposed to 3 for one of the teams is no harm.
Yeah, absolutely. As I'm sure you'll both be aware, Wi-Fi reception of any shape or form on a phone when you're in the Aviva is pretty much null and void. So
we blame John Delaney for that, or we won't blame John Delaney for that.
We'll let him away with that one. But it was probably halfway back towards Laois before I decided I'd better check the other results. And what was it, 3-0 down with 6 minutes left? Absolutely unbelievable comeback, so it was absolutely incredible. But it's big positive for us. It's definitely a very big positive for us.
Yeah, McCarthy mentioned that in his post-match interview last night, that, you know, we're probably a little bit reliant on these two sides, as he put it in fairly graphic terms, cutting each other's throats during the course of this campaign. But it looks like it could definitely happen, and we've benefited from that kind of scenario before when we had the likes of Croatia and Yugoslavia in the same group. We kind of saw them drop points against one another and we progressed at their expense.
Joe has texted in, presumably not Joe Malloy, but this Joe says, huge improvement. You only have to compare last night's game to our recent game against Northern Ireland, light years ahead. But in fairness to Mick, he's had very little time to do anything with the team, Shane, but they know their job, and they're playing with a bit of kind of enthusiasm as well.
They do. I mean, you just see the very, very... Yeah, we definitely agree with Richie. We still need that more of a spark in the final third, but we're now showing it in the first two-thirds where we weren't showing it in the first two-thirds. Like, for numerous times, like we got fairly into the habit of seeing our two centre-halves go bang and the ball going the length of the field the vast majority of the time they had it.
It even happened on Saturday against Gibraltar. You saw Shane Duffy look up and his only option was really to launch it long, and he was probably trying to take advantage of the wind to some degree. But last night there was an effort to play it out, try and find space in midfield, and you have to give credit to Glenn Whelan. I know a lot of people...
I thought Glenn Whelan was fantastic last night.
A lot of people last night would have seen that name appear in the team sheet. It was his first game since, first competitive start since September of 2017 against the same opposition, and everybody would have presumed he retired, saw his name in the team sheet and went, oh God, what's in store here? And he was one of the best players in the park, and there's almost a suggestion that, and I don't want to get too carried away based on last night's performance, there's almost a suggestion that he's perhaps been misused over the past while, because he has put in a hell of a lot of good club performances over the course of the last decade.
Glenn Whelan made a pass in the Premier League last season when he was at Stoke.
Yeah.
And he made a pass in a game, I think it might have been a dead rubber game, but this audacious 50-yard pass, and I was like, Glenn Whelan is able to pass the ball, he's just not really encouraged to playing for Ireland.
Yeah, he was the perfect pivot last night. He just, he knew his job. He sat there and he allowed the other two to buzz around him all the time. And, going back to, like, I could absolutely stake my life on it, that on the training ground, I'd say the biggest thing that I noticed about it from playing against teams that do it really, really well and how hard it is. I remember playing when Derry were going very, very well, and they had, when Conor McCormack was still with them, this crack of where one of the midfielders, the fullback goes really high, and then that drags the winger back with him, and then one of the midfielders drops into that pocket that he's vacated, and now he receives the ball semi-turned, he's facing play and off, he can go and dictate the passing forward. The amount of times that both Hendrick and Hurling did that off of either side of Glenn Whelan's shoulder was really, really good, and I thought that's what got us flowing. I didn't see that at all for about 3-4 years.
We've loads to talk about with Kenny Cunningham and Kevin Kilbane. That'll be at 7:30, but this text in, throw O'Dowda, Robinson and possibly Bamford into that team, and it's very promising. I'm not sure about Bamford, but O'Dowda coming in, just two players though who could feel a bit peeved that they weren't playing. Definitely Doherty and your buddy Sean Maguire as well, which you're looking at Sean now and you're like, hard to see him getting into the team. Yeah. Look,
I make no attempt to hide my fondness for Sean. I had Sean's former strike partner in the car with me as the two of us were driving up, and we were staring at our phones at 6:30, hoping and praying that he was going to be in the starting lineup, and obviously he wasn't. We were very disappointed. Any argument that we could have had before kick-off that Sean should have been in the team ahead of McGoldrick was well and truly squashed. I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was really, really fantastic, McGoldrick, last night. He had a superb game. Sean's just going to have to grin and bear it. You'd be keeping an eye on him on the side. We'd be watching all these warm-ups and everything. I did see him go kind of chase after McGoldrick came off, to give him a high five and tell him how well he'd done, which was good to see. Doherty certainly has a case to feel grieved to have missed out, that's for sure. Even with a good performance and a good win, I would still say next game there has to be a place found for him.
But how do you play O'Dowda and Doherty?
I think you play Doherty left back. I don't think Enda Stevens has done a huge amount wrong, and I think it's brilliant to see a fella who's come through the League of Ireland and who's looked like he maybe wasn't going to make it initially in England and end up there, but there has to be a place for Matt Doherty, and I don't think it's outright right wing, and I wouldn't drop Seamus Coleman either, to be honest.
Doherty to come in off if you have Doherty left back and he's coming in field in your attacking positions, that's something that the defence basically don't want to be having to deal with, as well as your conventional winger.
They don't, which means you're probably going to have to go conservative with your selection of who you play in front of him, which would probably suggest that James McLean will probably keep his place there too. And I'm not sure on form if McLean is absolutely deserving of that, because if Callum O'Dowd is fully fit, personally speaking, I'd much rather have Callum O'Dowd in there, because he seems somebody who's able to unlock a defence far better than James McLean.
And we need that. Great performance last night, big improvement. Very hopeful that Daniel Crowley can bring a little controlled creativity that will open up sides like Georgia when his registration goes through. Brady and McLean weren't as productive as they need to be. This one from Gowers in Cork is interesting.
That Crowley thing is a bit hopeful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, he's going to obviously apply, but I'm not sure if he's there in terms of ability for a starting place.
Maybe the bloke or lady didn't give his or her name for good reason with that one. But out of interest, lads, supposing Mick McCarthy does super well with this team and say they top the group, should McCarthy be kept on or still move to Kenny? that we won't be asking Stephen Kenny that, by the way. And if you ask Kenny what happens with McCarthy, and I bring this up before, it's like the surrogate mother who's like, yeah, I'm giving you the baby, and then she sees this beautiful baby come out of, and she's like, oh no, I don't want to give up the baby now. Mick McCarthy's going to be like that. He's like, yeah, I'm agreeing all along, but then come the end of his tenure, he's like, no, I don't want to give this up.
Well, it's interesting to get your views on surrogacy there, Johnny.
I'm going to go to Shane on that one.
That is as peculiar an angle.
That's not a bad analogy at all, Shane. Anyway, to get back to the original point of the text, there is going to be...
Mick is carrying the baby to term, a la Junior, the mid-90s movie. But, like, to be honest with you, right, if we qualify for the tournament, that's the expectation of any Ireland manager, is that they get us qualified for the tournament. We're not going to win the Euros if we qualify. We're going to go to the Euros and have a respectable performance, one way or another. And then Kenny's going to come in. The arrangement is how it is. And I don't think Stephen Kenny's going to disgrace himself.
One thing about Stephen Kenny, you mentioned this, and we're going to talk to him around 9:10 or thereabouts, but you mentioned, I didn't see the game on Sunday, but Ireland's dedication on Sunday against Luxembourg under 21s to playing the ball around at the back.
Yeah, look, I kind of have to, I'll hold my hand up. I'm praising Mick and I'm praising last night's performance, all right? Obviously, like everybody, the Gibraltar performance wasn't great, and I suppose after the Gibraltar game, I made the point, I can't even remember who I was talking to, I made the point that it was a little bit disappointing to see that from our goal kicks, all our goal kicks were going long. And I said, you watch in Tala on Sunday night, I can tell you that will not be the case in Tala on Sunday night. And by God, did he live up to my boast there. I mean, every goal kick was short. There was one scenario, I was just counting them back to you, there was one scenario where we played in open play, played 6 passes, and the 7th was the out ball. We played 6 passes inside our own 18-yard box.
A lot of people turning in their grave.
A little bit hard in mouth, but they never looked like they were going to give the ball away. He kind of switched it from one centre half to the other. A deep midfielder dropped in, back to the keeper again, and eventually we got out, and it prompted a really, really good attack. And that's just Stephen playing the way that Stephen plays.
Richie, headlines.
We'll turn to last night's game first of all. The Republic of Ireland will go into June's back-to-back Euro 2020 qualifiers, top of Group D. Conor Harahan's superb free kick 9 minutes before half-time was enough to secure a 1-0 win over Georgia last night at the Aviva. Ireland's next game comes away to Denmark on June 7th before the visit of Gibraltar to the Aviva on June 10th. One of the stories of last night was a superb return to the starting 11 for Glenn Whelan. The Aston Villa midfielder was making his first competitive start since September of 2017 in a draw with the same opposition, which was in Tbilisi. And Whelan spoke about his comeback with our own Phil Egan.
Must have been great though to come back, as was mentioned there. Some people thought you'd retired, and when you line out tonight and the way you played, that's what it's all about.
Listen, like I said, it's a privilege to come back and put the jersey on. In November I thought that was going to be the last time I'd ever do it, so like I said, to get the phone call to come back now was no second questions, to be honest. It was like, yeah, get the tickets booked, I'm there. So listen, I know where to stand. I know I'm getting on a little bit, and if we come in and do my part, then now I'm more than happy.
Meanwhile, Harahan's goal came after a 3-minute delay while tennis balls were cleared from the pitch. The 33rd minute protest against John Delaney and his governance of the FAI did materialise, along with several chance and choice banners. Mick McCarthy was asked after the game what he made of the protest.
It was balls, wasn't it, to be fair. I was concerned that it would affect our concentration. I didn't want to take a free kick and they break on us, whether it affected their concentration or not, but I'm not bothered what had happened. He wasn't stopping that free kick, whether tennis balls are being on or not, so I don't think it affected the game at all.
Wouldn't have been the easiest thing for Mick to talk about, but you know you're hurling. His actual Whelan's ability to catch the tennis ball during the goal celebration, I thought he caught it like perfectly on the hop. It was very impressive, and then lobbed it back into the stadium, a la Jamie Carragher and Highbury one time. Do you remember when he
with a coin though?
Some lad threw a coin onto the pitch and he lashed it back.
But it was
into
the fluid motion of Whelan with the catch and release. That was textbook, absolutely textbook.
You got to admire the lad. Do you know, just to come back in at this stage of his career and play like he did last night, never give up.
He'd be a great fielder in cricket.
He would. I think most managers, by and large, they always love a fella who can do that role with minimum fuss and offers you the protection and just wants to keep prompting, moving things along. I know I always have. You'd have a fondness for that kind of fella, and there's a personality type that fits that player on the pitch, if you know what I mean. They have to be a certain kind of fella who's not about the ego and doesn't mind being kind of downplaying his own role and all that, and you kind of hear him saying that again from
Who's the best player of that ilk in the modern game?
I still think, even though he's not been played in that position, it's Kante.
What did you make of the protest scenes you were in the stands last night?
My first instinct was it was very amusing, I suppose. You couldn't help but have a bit of a laugh about it when it actually happened. I suppose it ended up being a kind of a middle ground, didn't it? Like, you'd love to see like a couple of thousand balls rain on, or no balls at all.
It was very
looked like a week.
yeah.
Exactly, it looked like a weak enough effort.
If they were to do it like a strip search before the game for tennis balls, that could have ended up being a bit messy.
Yeah, I think
about it.
The rumour floating, wasn't it, that the story about the tennis balls had been planted so that they could do quite extensive searches to stop for any flags actually getting in.
Is that a tennis ball in your pocket, etc., etc.?
Yes, very good.
John says, hope a good home was found for the tennis balls. Where would they have gone, Richie?
You'd hope they'd gone to a local charity or somebody's dog to go and chase down the park.
The local tennis club in Dublin 4 doesn't really seem, meritorious enough, because it probably, Dublin 4
Did
tennis
people go
clubs.
and buy like 3-4 packs of like Slazenger tennis balls to bring with them last night?
There was local shops doing specials on them.
We'd welcome anyone tweeting
up,
We'd welcome anyone tweeting us with a photo of any of the tennis balls that they may have gotten from the game last night.
Yeah, another talking point arising from last night was Matt Doherty only playing a cameo. The Wolves wing back was relegated to the subs bench and only came on for the last 8 minutes of last night's game. Gary Breen joined Ger Anon on this morning's OTBAM and says a secondary role is something that Doherty may have to get used to regardless of form.
The difficulty is, again, Joe, is that if you want to get him in the team, so it's as basic as saying there's a right back position available. Seamus or Doherty? So that's the question Ireland fans have got to ask themselves. And we've had it before, like, better players than Doherty and better players than Seamus Coleman didn't play for Ireland before because our right back options were so strong. The likes of Gary Kenny, I said it again, Stephen Carr, Steve Finnan, they're far better players. That's not being disrespectful to those two guys, because I really, really enjoy watching him in the Premier League. I really enjoy watching him in an Ireland shirt. Not so much Doherty as yet, but I believe I will be seeing him. So they have got a part to play, but it's as basic as that for Mick McCarthy. It will literally be as black and white as that. Now, I do believe that Doherty can play on the right side of midfield in front of Seamus Coleman. The only problem is, and we've seen it last night, is that Seamus Coleman wants to bomb on, and if he does it as well as he did last night, then he's effectively going to block all the areas that Doherty wants to work in. So it is a problem, no doubt.
Just on that, what would Stephen Kenny, and we're not going to ask him this, but what would Stephen Kenny have made of that game last night, Shane?
I think he would have been very encouraged. Yeah, I definitely think he would have been very encouraged. As I say, proper passing patterns, fellas wanting to get on the ball. He will certainly be, as I say, he'll be looking, I would imagine he'll be looking, trying to think, right, if I was in charge last night, how would I go about, what would I do in my next couple of training sessions to try and make us a bit more productive in the final third? I mean, he's got to be thinking all the time now, as if I was Mick, what I've done today, if I was Mick, what would I have done today? They're the questions that he needs to be asking himself 24/7, I'm sure he is. But he certainly would have saw enough to think, are these the kind of players that I can get to play in the way that my Dundalk side have been playing? Yeah, I think they are.
Sticky from Dreamnet, lads. If Michael D. Higgins could say he's only going to run for one term only to change his mind, then so can Mick McCarthy. Won't be mentioning that with Stephen Kenny either. Jesus, lads, we haven't turned into Brazil by getting a new manager. Very good argument that O'Neill's team would have beaten Georgia and Gibraltar, Tom and Mayo. Possible, but they didn't beat them in Tbilisi, and they were rubbish when they beat them at home, which actually made Georgia look good.
Yeah, so the last time we played Georgia, we had 29% possession against them.
That was the home game, wasn't it?
That was the
It was the away game.
It was the away game. In the home game, we had 47%.
Now the away game, we took the lead in that. So normally the team, that isn't leading, basically doesn't. Normally the team that's chasing the game has more possession or whatever. But that was an awful indictment of where we were going at the time, that game.
Yeah, Georgia. See, I think what's getting lost here a little bit is that Georgia are a good side. They're not
form. They actually did really well in their. I know it's a step below, but their Nations League they won at a canter.
Yeah, and not alone are they a good side. They're not a good side as in they're good at long ball, and they're actually a possession-based side and have played against some very good sides and come out. But the way Ireland set up to stop them, like if you looked last night, it was slightly unorthodox actually, in that it was our two wide players were the two who went in to stop the two centre halves on the goal kick, and McGoldrick dropped off around the 6, and they just had no, and you could see their keeper getting really, really frustrated as to, he was
Where's
so
our plan B?
exactly, he was so used to getting out easily enough, and they just couldn't.
For once we made a team look poor under O'Neill, we would have made them look good. Credit where it's due. John Coleman and Jordan Henderson is the most similar to Whelan, Owen and Tala. Not sure about that, Richie.
At the WGC Dell match play, it got underway in Austin, Texas. Rory McIlroy in his first Group 4 match is 1-up through his first 4 holes with Luke List. It'll be 20-8 Irish time before Shane Lowry tees off against the 2017 Masters champion Sergio Garcia. Following victory in January's Abu Dhabi Championship, Lowry's endured a patchy season since. He's hoping this week can be the start of a more stable and successful period of his year.
Look, golf's a funny game. Like I went into Abu Dhabi with no expectation and did what I did, and I've did okay in Dubai the week after, but came over to the States now and struggled a little bit, but don't feel like my game's far away. Don't feel like I've been doing the wrong things, so I just have to keep doing what I'm doing, and hopefully it'll pay off some week.
Rumblings from Cork, their clubs are said to be angry that they were deprived of their inter-county hurlers for the recent round of Club League games. County Secretary Kevin O'Donovan says a misunderstanding resulted in players not being released to their clubs, despite Cork's Allianz League campaign having ended the week prior. The issue of club player availability is front and centre in new proposals to reshape the Cork County Championships. One suggestion would see clubs earning just 2 points for a win without their county players, but 4 for a victory with their full complement. Another recommends playing 2 group games during the summer months.
Controversy in Cork hurling is an unusual thing, isn't it?
Strange one, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
What do you make of the hurling this year, apart from the fact that it's going to be absolutely brilliant?
It is going to be absolutely brilliant, yeah. I think Sunday is going to be brilliant as well. Look, Johnny, people keep saying hurling's doing this right and hurling's doing that right, whereas Gaelic football is doing all this wrong. There's not a whole lot that the association can do about the fact that one team is massively superior to everybody else in Gaelic football, whereas you've got about, 6, 7 teams.
I'm not sure about the massively superior base, but we shall see.
Well, they certainly have been for the last few years, that's for sure. But in the hurling, we've got 6, 7 teams that you could throw a blanket over that on any given day, if they played each other 5 times, one team would win 3 and the other win 2 on any given time. And that's what makes it just fantastic last year. And again, you would imagine it's going to be fantastic again this year.
We did scare in Galway, Big Joe hobbling off on Sunday, but all is good.
Yeah, scared, be putting it mildly now when it comes to Big Joe. You'll certainly need everybody. Who would be favourites at this moment? Are Limerick favourites?
I think Galway are favourites purely because they're in Leinster. I find it very hard to see Galway not getting to an All-Ireland semi-final. Limerick mightn't get out of Munster. Munster is so ridiculous that, and now I know it's unlikely, but Tipperary didn't win a game last year. And I'm going to give a shameless plug for my Sunday Business Post article on Sunday, because I do a tip for the hurler of the year. 20-1 shot, but I think he's going to have a big impact, but I actually can't wait for it to get going.
Do we have to wait and buy it before we get that name? We do.
I believe in independent journalism, and I believe in buying papers.
I agree 100%.
Speaking of that hurling final this Sunday, Jamie Barron claims it was never in Waterford's plans to win this year's Allianz Hurling League title. The Daisha face All-Ireland champions Limerick in Sunday's decider, with Pádraig Fanning's side hoping to fare better than last year's Munster Championship encounter that saw Limerick win by 13 points. But Barron told her own Stephen Doyle, and now they're in the league final, they're determined to win it.
Do we have audio?
I have to take my word on that one.
Yeah.
Bayern Munich, meanwhile, have confirmed the signing of Atletico Madrid full-back Lucas Hernandez. The French international will join Bundesliga giants in the summer on a 5-year deal and will cost Bayern €80 million. His French international teammate Benjamin Pavard had already been confirmed to be joining Bayern from VfB Stuttgart at the end of this season. With the move, Hernandez will become the second most expensive defender of all time, behind only Virgil van Dijk, and the most expensive signing in Bundesliga history. Huge deal.
Fullbacks are becoming the new centre forwards, aren't they?
It's
Pep made them sexy. Pep spent 40 million a piece on 2 fullbacks. Now everybody's splashing out on their fullbacks.
Testament to the way Atletico do business if they're able to secure 80 million for a fullback.
We have to go to the ads, Richard. We haven't mentioned Bowes.
Bowes are class.
Bowes are class.
That'll do.
Let's go to the ads.
Off the ball on News Talk. At News Talk, we gave you the chance to have exclusive access to a local TD by getting them out of Leinster House and into yours. Next week on News Talk, we'll be taking you inside the homes and businesses of constituents from across the country to learn about their daily challenges and to task their local TD with bringing about change.
I do my best to try not to get stressed about it and keep that happy face, but when you hear that I could get this done in 2 weeks' time and I can't, that's really frustrating.
I don't mind paying rates, but I think rates need to be fairer. And it seems small businesses are being used to subsidise the big guys.
Take home a TD next week on Newstalk, on newstalk.com and on social.
It's always the way. Just when you need to buy a new appliance, your bank account goes, ha, no chance. Sure, it's 3 weeks till payday, you big idiot. And that's when you turn to Flexify with 0% APR at appliances delivered. TVs, washing machines, kettles. Get Flexify on appliances between €80 and €499.99. These terms and conditions apply, subject to minimum purchase amount, credit assessment and approval. See appliancesdelivered.ie.
Discover even more of the world this summer with Qatar Airways. Fly daily from Dublin to your favourite destinations with increased flights, complimentary seat allocation and a 30-kilogram bag allowance as standard. Book now at QatarAirways.com. Qatar Airways, going places together.
Hi, Jim Toll here from Ferco. Our burglar-proof windows and doors are getting excellent reviews.
Research shows the majority of Fairco customers recommend Fairco windows and doors to their friends and neighbours. You can't ask for a better message than that. There is total trust in Fairco windows and doors for keeping warmth in and burglars out.
Trust Fairco windows and doors to transform your home with 35 years experience keeping the warmth in and the burglars out. Guaranteed.
For happy customer reviews, visit fairco.ie.
When you run your own business, sometimes a heavy workload can weigh you down.
That white, please.
But Virgin Media Business offer Voom products that seamlessly work on their own. Meaning you can focus on your product, knowing we'll look after the rest. Virgin Media Business makes light work of everything. See virginmedia.ie/business for details. Terms and conditions apply.
This is an emergency appeal from GOAL. Cyclone Idai has caused massive flooding and devastation across Zimbabwe and Malawi, with the death toll increasing daily. Families have lost everything. GOAL staff are on the ground providing food, clean water, shelter and care, but we urgently need your help to reach more people. Please donate now, online at goal.ie or by calling 1850 832 100. That's 1850 832 100. Please don't delay. Time is running out.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
You're welcome back. It's Johnny Ward here with Shane Keegan. We're hoping to have Kenny Cunningham on the line anytime now. We do have Kevin Kilvan.
How are you, Johnny? How are you keeping? Hi, Shane. All good?
How are you, Kev?
Very good, lads. I heard the start of the show earlier on the Newsround, Johnny, saying it was pretty much the same as we've seen recently in the Aviva, was it? Is that what you were saying?
No, not. Oh God, it couldn't have been as negative as that. I just wasn't.
That's what you were saying, though, weren't you? You're saying to Shane, the lads, pretty much the same.
There's a major climb down, Kev. A major climb down going on Johnny's behalf here at the moment.
Johnny, I trust you as a man who reads a game of football. You've watched lots and lots of games of football. How on earth can you come away from that game and even suggest that at the start?
I thought Georgia were very, very average now. I didn't think, and we 2 shots on target in the whole game. I think if we played a stronger team for all our endeavour last night, I think we'd have struggled to get on the ball. But at the same time, Kev, a win is a win is a win.
No, I don't disagree with the fact is on Georgia. But how can you? No, my point being is though, how can you come away from that game saying that was pretty much the same? I saw smiles on faces. I saw the players enjoying it. Everybody taking the ball, passing it forward. David McGoldrick, that's as good a centre-forward performance as you're ever likely to see from an Irish striker. You're going back to Stapleton, Quinn, all these top strikers, Robbie Keane even as well, dropping off, receiving the ball, Kevin Doyle